Hi everyone, Shane R. Monroe here, and today we are going to install Battle.net and Overwatch 2, 100% fixed, no problems. Let's get to it. All right, so the first step, of course, is to download the Battle.net app itself. Pretty easy. We'll download it. We'll save it. I've already got one instance here, so it's got a 1, no big deal. We'll just save it. Great. Now let's go ahead and open Steam, go to our library. Add a non-Steam game, browse, go to your downloads folder or wherever you decided to put the Battle.net installer. Change from application desktop to all files and choose whichever one you want. They're both the same file at this point. All right, so go ahead and add, and you'll see that it appears in your list. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And we need to set to the latest GE Proton compatibility layer. So we're going to force compatibility, and we're going to choose 7-39. It must be 7-39 or higher. It must be. Now, if you don't have GE Proton, go to ProtonUp-Qt. And then hit Add Version. Make sure it's selected GE Proton. Select 739 and hit Install. Obviously, I already have it, so I don't need to install, but that's the way it is. Now, if you don't have ProtonUp-Qt installed, you're a little bit behind here. Let's go ahead and go to the Discover store, type in Proton, and you will see ProtonUp-Qt. Go ahead, grab that and install it. Mine says remove, yours will say install. Then go back and get that version. All right, now we're ready to go ahead and run it. This, of course, is the Battle.net installer that we're running right now, so you'll go through the standard Battle.net stuff. Again, having a mouse and keyboard for these demos and tutorials is definitely worth your time. While that's doing its thing, I'm going to show you right here on my micro SD card. I have Overwatch already installed, right? So it's already sitting on my micro SD card, which is where you're going to want to install everything probably anyway. Okay, so we're going to turn off the launch when you start your computer, and we're going to let it finish its thing. I sped it up a little bit for your convenience. Okay, so now it's installed and it's going to run for the first time. We'll go ahead and use our attached keyboard for this because the keyboard will continuously pop up and annoy you otherwise. All right, keep me logged in. Boom. Okay, so it wants to scan for games. Right now, we're not going to do anything here. We're just going to hit close. We're going to do some setting changes first, and then we will go and make sure that we get Overwatch added. Now, if you don't already have Overwatch installed, that's okay. We'll show you how to do a quick install as well. So I'm going to go to Settings, and I like to close the Battle.net app on the way out and give it a little timer so it doesn't instantly crash. It can still crash, and I'll show you that later on in the video. Make sure you turn off, in downloads, make sure you turn off any limiting of the bandwidth. You'll definitely not want your bandwidth hampered. Those are the main things to worry about. Now, we do need to change our game installation. We need to go and navigate somewhere else, anywhere else than the so-called C drive, because that C drive has a limit of about 22 gigabytes, and most of the games you're going to want to play are not 22 gigabytes. So we're going to navigate. We're going to open up the root of my micro SD card. That's where I want all of my Battle.net games to install. There, and it assigns it a Z drive. That's okay. Don't worry about that. That's totally normal. Now we can hit done. Now we're ready to go and locate our installed version of Overwatch 2. So notice right down here, we don't want to install. We could, if you don't have it, install it, but go ahead and hit locate the game. I'm going to select Overwatch, and you're going to see it's just going to parse the files really quick, and bang, I'm ready to rock and roll. Perfect. All right, so that's great. Okay, so as you can see, that's where it's installed at. Great, that's what we want. So let's just prove this out. If I install Hearthstone, or at least we'll start it, you'll see that it's automatically going to Z. It's going to the root of my micro SD card. Now you might want to make a blizzard.net folder and put everything in there, whatever you want to do, of course. Well, that's doing its install thing. I don't know how big this is or how long it'll take, but let's go and do a few things here. Let's set our artwork, right? Now I've got a link to this artwork in the description below. This is just stuff that I found, made myself in a couple of cases. So I've already got this on my SD card. I'm not going to show you how to transfer it over. You guys should probably already know that by now. But I am going to grab the artwork that I've already made, or downloaded in this case, and I'm going to set that as my banner. That looks great. I'm going to set a custom logo, which is the icon file that I chose. That looks pretty good. And then we'll go back to the home screen. Now you'll see it's under recently played games. This is the only time you can set this piece of artwork, is when it's in the recently played game leftmost column there. So we're going to go ahead and set this image while we're here too. I've got another banner for that. I like that one better for this particular image. You can see the hover over gets set too. Now what we can't do is set the box art for it right now because it's recently played, but we'll work on that. We'll work on that later. Okay, so there we go. It looks pretty good. Let's go into properties and let's change this icon. There's another little icon. If you haven't seen my set custom artwork in 5 locations video, all of this is in there, but I figured we'd do it in here while we're waiting. And let's go ahead and set this icon here. Nice. And that icon it appears right over here in this list, so it looks pretty good. All right, this is looking great, actually. This is looking really, really good. Might as well change the name. It's not the Battle.net installer. It won't be for much longer. This is really Overwatch 2 for me. Now you could make it the Battle.net installer, and because it's really Battle.net and Overwatch 2, or Battle.net and Hearthstone. But we're going to go ahead and just stop that. I was hoping it would be done, but it's not. So let's get out of there. So now you know how to install. Now you know how to find one that you already have. Back to game mode. Let's jump back to our library here. Now you see now this box, we can't set it here unfortunately, but we'll set that in a minute. All right, everything looks good just as we left it. What you may want to do at this point is to set some controller parameters. I enabled the back grip buttons and I assigned the left and right bumper to the topmost paddle buttons on the back, and clicking on the right stick and left stick I assigned to L5 and R5. This is standard in every game that I play. I just assign those almost immediately. Okay, now you're seeing this screen because we're still pointing to the installer, but once the installer realizes it's okay, it goes ahead and runs the installer. We don't want our launcher pointing to the installer. We're going to fix that in a little bit. We want it pointing to the actual BATTLENET.EXE. All right, now you're going to see something a lot of people have complained, hey, where's my play button? Where's my install button? I can't see it down here. All you have to do is double click inside the header of the window and it will resize it for you. Double click it again. So as you double click it, it'll try to fit the screen that you're in, and that's okay. So now we're ready to go. Everything is exactly the way we want it. So let's fire this guy up. Make sure all is well. Now there you go. See, I told you it was going to try to close it. And if there's a mismatch in timing, it'll throw an error, and you'll see one later on in the video. Most of the time it exits clean, and I want as much processing power. I don't want the launcher in the background, you know, trying to download stuff while I'm playing. I want Overwatch 2 running. I don't want that other Battle.net launcher running. Okay, so one of the things that we previously had problems with Overwatch 2 was you would have to wait 13 minutes for your pre-compile to happen before you could play the game. As you can see, that is not the case. Everything is silky smooth, even on the first run. The second problem was crashing. We'll talk about that in a minute. So here are all my settings for video. People always ask, what screen mode do I want, blah, blah, blah. If full screen doesn't work out for you, change full screen to windowed borderless. That will solve a couple of problems. All right, there's some graphic quality settings. Listen, tweak these to your heart's content. I get 60 FPS all the time unless it's caching shaders. All right, let's talk about shaders for a minute because this is confusing to a lot of people. I have some videos, but let's talk about it in context of Overwatch 2. So even though you don't have to wait 13 minutes, you still have to build shaders for the rest of the game. Every level you load, every player that's seen, every player that you play, every ultimate, everything has to be pre-cached. Now you'll see as I'm running around here, you'll see that I'm getting frame rate drops. That's not the game, that's the shader caches. When you go over the same areas again, notice how smooth that was. Now, once again, I'm entering a new area and you can start seeing the shaders compiling in the background, and those are causing some hiccups. So that's right, technically speaking, until you play every level with every character or against every character and see every one of their ultimates and see every possible derivative, you will occasionally see a shader cache stutter. Welcome to PC gaming. Okay, so you can see as I'm running around, I'm dropping some frames here and there, but overall it's pretty good. Now this training area does give you the ability to bring up a bot of different characters, right? There's Tracer. And what you can do is change Tracer into somebody else. Right? So you could literally sit here and select each character in turn. Now watch what happens when I choose Orisa. Look, you see what happened? I dropped to 20 FPS. That's because it's building her shaders. So you can literally, if you want to help smooth your gameplay out, just change to every character in here, wait for it to load and cache the shaders, and then you'll have a lot better experience while you're playing. You'll still have to worry about the level shaders being cached, but that's not too bad. All right, let's get out of here. We have a couple more things to do. But let's go ahead and do a few more things. I'm going to launch an arbitrary game that is not Overwatch 2, and then I'm going to exit it. Don't have to actually play it, just launch it. That way, Overwatch 2 is not the most recent game played. We're now going to flip ourselves back to desktop mode and take care of that ugly gray box that we're looking at. Okay, so now if we go back to our library, you'll see that Overwatch 2 is no longer the most recent game. Now we can set this artwork. Let's get that box art set. I know for some of you, you like a beautiful system. You like everything to look great. I don't want to leave you with an ugly gray box. So I'm going to go back to my original artwork that I downloaded. And I need to change it and get my box. Nice. Okay, well that's all taken care of. Now everything looks pretty good. All right, our compatibility is set for 7-39. This all looks great. Now, we do need one more thing. We need to get rid of this thing launching the setup every single time, right? We don't want that. We want to launch BattleNet itself. So let's go and take care of that little problem. All right, I'm going to go into my compat data folder where my Proton prefix is, and there'll be a link in the description below, so you don't have to worry about that. We're going to find the most recent Steam Proton prefix that was made. We're going to drill in until we find BattleNet.EXE. There it is. I'm going to then grab this whole path up here. Again, a mouse and a keyboard, folks. It's so much easier. We're going to copy that to the clipboard. We're going to hit Browse. We're going to paste that into the file name. Hit Open. That's going to jump us right to that folder. And we're going to choose BattleNet.EXE. Oh, it changed the icon. Dang it. Well, let's change it back. Silly, silly, silly. Okay, run, media, blah, blah, blah. We're going to go ahead and reset that same icon we said before. Nice. Okay, perfect. I think we've got it all. We've got a BattleNet that works. It looks good. It runs well. We got our settings. The icon is there. We're going to go back to gaming mode one more time. There it is. Ain't she a beauty? We'll go ahead and run it. Okay. All right. Everything looks great. The window fits perfectly, and we're ready to go. Remember I told you that sometimes that BattleNet exit will crash? Well, here's your example. Boom. It jumps in front of your game. You can turn this off, right? So you can also just hide this window, but we'll show you how to turn this back off. If for some reason this happens a lot for you, it doesn't for me, just go in here and close the window, right? See that blizzard there? Just hit X to close window, and you're back in Overwatch. If that happens a lot for you, if there's a timing scenario, just turn it off. We'll go turn it off right now in case you want to do that. That's really it. I mean, we're going to go turn it off, but if you've seen everything you need to see, great. Again, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Okay, so sometimes when you launch the Battle.net launcher, you'll get a hang. That's normal. If it hangs for more than about 8 seconds, it's not going to work. Just exit out and go back in, and within about 5 seconds, you will see that the launcher starts properly. Again, normal. Don't worry, it's nothing you've done wrong. It's just the nature of running Battle.net under a non-Steam game Proton prefix. Okay, so let's go into settings here real quick. This is where I changed it. Exit Battle.net completely. Just go to minimize Battle.net and then restore the Battle.net window when the game ends, and all should be well. All right, that's it, folks. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Shane R. Monroe. Appreciate your like, your subscribe. Leave a comment. Helps the channel immensely. Good times to be had. Overwatch 2 finally playable with no restrictions and no problems. Thanks again so much for watching, and take care.